Hello there, welcome back. Here's my Winnebago project. It's been a long time. My first video of the year in January was about this project, part 2. We're now on part 3, and it's mid-November. Yes, well done, Mike. I am very good at dragging my heels. Look. Skill, pure skill. Anyway, it's been sitting for a while, which is why it's dustier than a dusty thing. However, there has been progress since the last time you saw this, if you saw it, if you saw part 2. Quick recap, I am turning this old Tonka Winnebago into an RC project, or into an RC car, using a Gmade Komodo GSO2 chassis as the basis. That's the end of the recap. Told you it was quick. Now, what have I done? Well, quite a lot. All the electronics are now in. I've got a Holmes Hobby, look at the state of that, a Holmes Hobby Crawlmaster Sport 550 12 turn 5 slots motor. It's a really good motor. I've got a Hobbywing 1080 ESC. It's a really good ESC. I have some sort of generic servo. I hope it's a good servo. It's 40 kilos because this is going to be a hefty truck. So I hope it's going to be up to it. The steering link isn't attached yet. The reason being is I had this built. These are not Gmade axles, in case you're wondering. These are boom racing axles. These are the BRX 80 fat axles. Now the reason the steering doesn't fit, it's too long. These used to be the BRX 90 fat axles. And when I ordered them, it was either those or the 70s. The 80s were not available. They were not on the market. The 70s were too narrow, so I went for the 80s because I needed a narrower track width than a standard crawler because the Winnebago is narrower. The 70s was too narrow, so I went for the 90s, and the 90s were still slightly too wide. So I had to get a kit to convert the BRX 90 fat axles into the BRX 80 fat axles, which I've done. So these are now BRX 80s, but it means the steering no longer fits because they're narrower. I've changed it. So I'll get that sorted. I will get that sorted. I'm also now using boom racing tires as well, as because last time I had the boom racing wheels, but they were running Gmade MT 1903 tires. These are now boom racing tires. I really like these. These are lovely. Look at the tread on that, and they're the right size. Crucially, because the 1903s, although they're really good tires, way too big for the Winnebago's arches. So now, this might need to tweak the wheelbase slightly, as I said last time, but these are the perfect fit for these arches. Look at that. Look at that. Couldn't be any better. So happy with that. That's really good. So the axles are great. Drive shafts. Last time I had this, if you've seen it, I had some cheap Chinesium steel drive shaft on the back, not one in the front because I couldn't find the one pin to go through. But they were rubbish drive shafts anyway. They were rattly and cheap and horrible. So these are now also boom racing drive shafts, front and rear, and the rear is only just the right length. See, it's almost fully compressed, and then or fully telescopic. I'm not actually sure what the actual the word is, but anyway, yeah, you can see here once I compress the shocks, that gap there closes up completely to the outdrive. So yeah, there's not much more to play. There's not any more to play with. Counter rotation drive shafts on this gearbox, torque twist reduction gearbox. They fight against each other to stop it walling one way or the other. You know, if you're driving forward and they all go the same way, the telescopic effect, centrifugal effect of the drive shafts makes the thing lean over. But these help stop that, which means I needed to get a mirrored bevel gear, a flipped bevel gear in here, because otherwise the front axle was running the wrong way. It was rotating the wrong way. Now, gear, stuff, electronics, working. Sky RC, sorry, Fly Sky, not Sky RC, Fly Sky, try that again, Fly Sky, not Sky RC, Fly Sky radio gear. The don't ever use Fly Sky on fast RCs because I had a full speed runaway. I don't trust them. And also the Ansman Madrat came with a rebranded Fly Sky. The same thing happened. So I'll only ever use them on crawlers, but they're really good for crawlers because they come with loads of features for the money. And if a crawler starts to have a runaway, you're just like, oh no, it's getting away, come back. Anyway, let's give it a go. This 3-cell's not charged, by the way, but you can see servo's working. Servo's working. Obviously, its wheels aren't turning; it's not connected, and a bit thumpy, a bit lumpy, but it works fine. It's going to be a fine trail truck chassis, just not with the weight of this massive Tonka body shell on it. I call it body shell, it's not really a body shell. It's the entire Tonka truck. Now, I figured out a few things. Last time I was concerned, how am I going to get this mounted to that with the shock coops in the way? And you'll notice the back shock coops are gone. The front shock coops are still there. I'm going to have to cut the floor at the front. In fact, I have started, I'll show you in a little while. To get this through, this is going to have to poke through. You've got the servo there, you've got high motor, you've got the high shock coops. Yeah. The back is nice and flush. Now, here's my thought process. I've spilled my tea somehow. When did that happen? Must have been when I was driving it. I didn't notice. Anyway. My thought process was, this is the same chassis, the GSO2 is the same chassis is available on the Bomb. This was the Komodo, there's also the GSO2 Bomb. The Bomb has cantilever rear shocks. I was like, right, cantilever shocks would be perfect, leaves this nice and flush, gets the shock hoops out of the way so they don't have to stick through the floor, sorted. However, cantilever rear shocks weren't going to work. They've got to be mounted behind this cross member. By the way, the cross member that came with this truck is plastic. I've upgraded this now. That's not possible. I've had to move everything back. To lengthen the wheelbase, I've made actually longer links. Move this all back. This is 2 mounting holes further back than it used to be. So there was no space left for the cantilever shocks at all, and all the mechanism that comes with it. There was no space. However, I was saved by the ready-to-run Bomb GSO2 because GSO2 has various rear shock setups. You can have the hoops, like comes with the Komodo. You can have the cantilevers that come with the Bomb, or you can have the V setup, which comes with the ready-to-run Bomb. Now, I thought, right, I could get the V setup. I looked in the box. This block, this plastic block, see that there, hanging from, I don't know if you can see it because everything's in the way, the shocks are in the way and everything. See that block, plastic, black one? That hangs below the cross member. That is included on the parts tree with all GSO2 chassis, including the Komodo, which doesn't use this setup. So I had the top shock mounting location point thing in the box already. Right, I can just put that on there, mount it up, and I can go for the V configuration. It still gets rid of the shock hoops, keeps them nice and flush, nice mounting point for the Winnebago. But it wasn't quite as simple as that because the Gmade axles, the GA44s or something they're called, they have specific points at the top for mounting the shocks for the V setup. These are the boom racing axles. They don't have that point. They have a different point at the bottom. Not a problem. You just need different length shocks. I went on the Gmade website and I bought some Gmade shocks. At the same time, I actually was buying this. It was the cross member. The reason being is this is where the shock mount is. This is where all the pressure is. There's no real flex in that plastic block. It's solid. But this had quite a lot of flex in it. So I wanted to make that rigid and solid since all the weight is suspending off it. So that sorted that with the big metal bit. Got these longer shocks. Pure guesswork as to what length to order. Didn't have any idea. Just roughly measured it with a measuring tape against where I think it will be. Pure guesswork, really. And thankfully it's actually come out really well. So the chassis sits basically straight. I can adjust these slightly. But yeah, it's really good. Really good. So happy with it. It sits perfectly. And what's interesting is people say it's got better bump management and better roll or anti-roll control with the V setup, but you lose articulation, which I thought that was a trade-off worth going for. But, so I'm sorry, lose articulation. Really? I mean, really? That's better articulation than the back of the suspension on this truck has ever had, by a long way. It's probably because these shocks are maybe, are they longer? I don't know. No, they're not. The shorter shocks too. They're longer than the standard Gmade ones for the bomb on the back for the V setup or the cantilever setup, but that is ridiculous articulation. So that's the rear suspension sorted. Before we move away from the back end though, last time I may have mentioned it, or last time I did mention it, you may have seen it, is I had knuckle weights at the back. Had them at the front, plus extra weights bolted to them. They were perfect. On the back, the locker ring, I couldn't tighten them enough. It was just slipping on and off the axle. I did email Boom Racing and said, look, I'm at the limit here before my Allen key snaps and these are still not tight enough. They said, don't worry, it feels like it, but you can really go for it and it will compress it, it will clamp it. So I did that and it did clamp them. Unfortunately, as I suspected, it cost me an Allen key. So this is my 1.5mm Allen key and the end is snapped off. Hex driver, if you want to call it, snapped off. I knew it would happen. Thankfully, I managed to snap it on the last one. So these are now bolted on, these axle weights. But it's a bit of a shame I have to order a new Allen key. So I have space to mount the Winnebago onto the chassis, the frame. That's cool. This is now nice and flush. So that's the back end. The problem with the back end is basically sorted. Apart from playing around with, you know, springs and shock oil or whatever. That's it. That's good. In terms of mounting the battery is more of a problem. I've got to get rid of this high battery tray. I don't have much to play with because I've got the gearbox, but I can get a little bit away. I'll need to keep the tray itself, the bottom level of the tray in, because it is structural. There are parts that mount to it. The gearbox mounts to it. The chassis frame mounts to it. So I've got no choice but to keep them. Same with this front shock hoops, but we've been over that. I don't think that's going to be a problem. The front is going to have a lot more messing around. It's just the nature of the beast, I guess. But if I can get this trimmed a bit lower, I can clear, hopefully, the battery tray for the battery. The battery tray for the battery, nice one, as opposed to the battery tray for the motor. The battery tray can be cleared, and because it's not going to be used anymore, I have already come up with a better way to mount the battery for this that will keep it out of the way and also put more weight on the front. So that's cool. So the chassis is basically done. I mean, obviously I have to tidy all this. I don't know where I'm going to mount all the electronics yet, because there's in the interior there's spaces in the cupboards and stuff, so we'll see. It needs to be easy to get to, but that's the last thing I'm going to do, is tidy up cabling and mounting these properly. The battery, I know where I'm going to put it, that's all good. And I haven't really done much to this part of it. You know, obviously the roof's out. There's a sort of structural point across the front here at the top of the roof, above the windshield. That's gone. Well, it's over there somewhere. To get access to everything, I have started to cut the floor and got that. See that right there? That's all I've got. That was 10 minutes work right there. It's so strong. The steel is so strong. Listen to that. Couldn't get through it at all. Might have to buy some new cutting discs for my Dremel, or come up with a new way to cut it. I don't think I'll be able to get an angle grinder in there. So, but we'll figure something out. It's not a problem. You know, I'm relatively practical. My dad's a retired engineer, so, and he has every tool in the world and all the knowledge in the world, so we'll figure something out. Although I've done it all myself so far, but if there's any sort of questions where I'm stuck, he's always got a way of figuring, especially when it comes to working on the Alfa Romeo, because Italian stuff, lots of seized bolts. He's like, oh, I know what to do. So anyway, yeah, that's where we're at the moment. Not a huge amount to talk about, apart from the fact the chassis is basically done. Just need to shorten that steering link and it'll drive around happily. Mount this up. Once that's mounted up, you can do the interior and make it really, really 70s and really, really American. Like really American. So American. So that'll be good fun. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. And I hope next time, in part 4, the next update will come sooner than 10 months or whatever it's been. So